Welcome to episode number 68 of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. As always, I'm Sarah Zenacroce, your host, and I'm so happy that you're spending another episode with me today. The connection with today's guest, Jennifer, all started through an email conversation where Jen reached out to me about something she signed up for on my site and didn't receive what I promised. And I just read our emails again, and it was such a lovely conversation. So much in contrast with the email I just received yesterday from someone who stated 3 negative things in one email, 3 of them. So, of course, my ego got triggered with that email. But then I took a deep breath and replied politely and reimbursed the money and thought, what if I dealt with this with love? And that's exactly what Jen did. Something didn't work, but there was no judgment. And as you see, it ended up with us having a wonderful exchange and finally our conversation on today's episode. So Jennifer Freeman is a longtime practitioner of mind-body awareness and wisdom traditions from around the world, including Qigong, Ayurveda, Buddhist philosophy, and modern capitalism. She calls upon these systems to support her intuitive wisdom that arises when she works together with others. Jen also worked in website design, had a California real estate broker's license, and worked in land development, raising $5 million capital projects. She brings with her a lifetime of passionate interest in transformational modalities and is dedicated to facilitating individuals and businesses towards their highest calling. So, without further ado, here's my conversation with Jen. Hi, Jennifer. So good to speak to you.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I know we had an email exchange a while ago, and then I'm like, are you an introvert? Yes, I am. Okay. And then here we are a couple of months later, finally get the chance to talk to you. So tell me a bit, besides the official bio that I read in the intro, kind of like who you are as an introvert and what kind of business you run and how the introversion kind of, fits into that.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people that could always sense and feel a lot, that just picked up a lot more than the other people around me. And part of what led to my interest in helping people discover their inner authentic gifts and bring them forward to the world, both for their own benefit, but also for society's benefit, was seeing and feeling how many people were doing things that didn't match them. They were trying to be, good people and do life like they're supposed to and get their jobs and provide for their families and do all of that. But I could feel their inner conflict, and I could feel how unexpressed they felt. And so it's been a 25-year journey of learning about, energy really, but learning about how to help people recognize their true gifts and talents, align with them, giving themselves permission to be who they are. And that includes me, of course, because how I was conditioned and what I was taught I was supposed to be is very different than who I am and what I've chosen to do. And so that journey of freeing myself from that conditioning and following my own authentic voice, I've come to call wayfinding. So helping people find their way once they've left the map of the known and stepping out into who they're here to be. So it's been an amazing journey. I love it. And I love it both for my own personal growth, but getting to work with people as they explore this for themselves too.
So I'm curious, you're saying you had to, do your own journey and it was not easy. So tell us about that. Where did you start and how was that transition for you?
Okay. So I grew up in a family where success was definitely measured by income. And it wasn't about what you were contributing or how you felt inside in terms of congruity between your inner spirit and what you're expressing on the outside. And so I tried to follow that path. I was in the financial industry in my 20s and early 30s, and I was in land development in the San Francisco Bay Area in the States, and that's a very highly competitive market. And so I was basically competing with all the extroverts with 100% commission style of job. I mean, it's so wrong for me on every level.
God, yeah, it makes me.
and it was really just this point where I was in my early 30s where I came to this place where I realized that it was just, I mean, literally the words I said to myself, it's like, this is killing me. And I looked around me like, this is killing everyone around me, whether they know it or not, like the way they were approaching it, and there was just this place of, for better or for worse, I'm going to follow this inner voice and I'm going to do it. And it's been an amazing journey. And it's also been it's very intense to step away from what people think is the normal trajectory. And then instead to basically partner with spirit and to partner with going into the unknown and trusting that one step at a time it'll unfold. And it's been incredible. And that's the thing is whenever I can tell, like right now, when I can share it with people, it's like that moment of turning away from the lifestyle, what I've been conditioned to do, that was actually very painful. So then I was identifying with it, thinking something was wrong with me, when in reality, I was just in the wrong room with the wrong people doing the wrong thing. And that the moment I turned away from that and turned towards something that was more life enhancing and that was more congruent with my inner values and my inner sense of myself, everything's flowed beautifully from then. Whereas before, when I was trying to do the thing that did not match, it was not flowing beautifully.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful story. So tell us, so now you're helping other people find their way. Yeah. How does that work as a business? Are you mostly coaching one-on-one, or tell us a bit about your business model?
Yeah. So it's expanding, this year has been great because I'd had a dream for years of teaching online classes. And it's funny because it was actually handed to me as a vision from spirit. I just saw it like 6 years ago that's what I would be doing. But I was like, teaching what? How? It was before a lot of technology was in place too. But so online classes, teaching several this year. Workshops, like in-person workshops. I also lead personal retreats using the land. It's like I did a 2-day taking people through the mountains here, and I live in Montana in the States, which is just beautiful landscapes, and taking them there for their own inner spiritual growth, using the landscape for transformation. And then I do one-on-one coaching, and then I'll do group coaching calls. But mostly, I mean, it's actually kind of even at this point. Like I had the chance to go to Istanbul, Turkey this year and present at a conference. And so I'm seeing this larger thing start to take shape for teaching bigger groups of people. Mm-hmm. And for now, it's still a bit more the smaller and then the one-on-one intensives. So, because people tend to stay, like if they're drawn to work with someone like me that's so focused on how to help them transform to their higher level, to embody their deeper message and to bring into the world, that's a longer process. So they tend to stay with me for a while. Most of my clients are with me for at least 3 years. So,
yeah, I mean, you just said you had this vision 6 years ago. So we don't change our whole life within, a couple of months. So, yeah. Wonderful. And I'm so happy to hear you say it's expanding, which is good for you and your business, but it's also good for, the world in general, because I think we're really clearly seeing that, something's shifting. It's just like we're at this peak of the mountain and we're just tired of doing the things that we've always done. And I think it's time for a paradigm shift, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something very much, and again, in terms of the context of the introvert extrovert model, this is part of what I'm so interested for myself and others, is to help them recognize that what's arising in them is their authentic expression, like their truth, what they feel they have to do, right? And it doesn't have to be big, like big and fancy, but it's just something where they're like, no, I'm the one, right? Mm-hmm. And so to me, that gives a kind of courage and confidence and conviction that allows you to stand up and be willing to be seen and be willing to take a stand and to give other people the chance to resonate with what you're saying so that they see they're not alone too. But it's a courage born of authenticity, and that to me is the sense of the paradigm shift, is an inner valuation instead of outer valuation. Because like in the financial industry, one of the things I did is I evaluated deals. So I worked with investors and developers and And so that was one of my jobs, to evaluate a deal before I would bring in funding for it. And so it's a funny thing to use the same kind of mindset, but to help people evaluate themselves, like where they know they can trust themselves, like where their real strengths lie, where their talents lie. And then it gives them the courage to stand up and be different and help bring in that new paradigm. So
yeah, it's so interesting what you just said, and that reminded me more of my LinkedIn business, where people always are like, oh, but for example, because I work a lot with coaches, they're like, yeah, but I worked in the finance industry, but that doesn't count anymore. Now I'm doing this. But what you just said is exactly what I'm trying to tell them. Your past, you don't have to just throw it away. Just see what you can use from that past to apply it to what you're doing today. And that evaluation is exactly that. I find it fascinating how you can always find something in, even if you hated that job, right? There's always something that will help you and serve you in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's funny, especially if you have a life that involves deep transformation, there'll be a very distinct before and after. It's not like, it's not a life that's just kind of stayed on one, you got a job and you had it for 30 years kind of thing.
Right.
And that quality that you're talking about, to realize that the essential skills you learned are yours and they're going to go with you regardless of the industry or your positioning. But that recognition again is inner authority, right? Recognition of your own strengths instead of, I'm no longer, in that industry, so it doesn't count. It's like, no, of course it counts.
Yeah,
but it's
still you.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's still you.
Yeah. So let's talk about these strengths. So that, that is definitely one of your strengths, seeing, using your intuition and seeing other people's gifts. What other strengths do you have and you think are kind of more, introverted versus extroverted?
Yeah. So I labeled this because this was so intrinsic to how I do stuff. And so I call it listening for genius. And this is from Qigong practice as well. Because I'm just a natural, very deep listener. So I naturally receive people very deeply into my system, and I hear them on many levels of reality. So I had a nickname where different clients were calling me the big ear, because it's like I listen with my whole body. It's not just my ears, And so the listening for genius is realizing our listening field is so powerful. So if we're listening for what I call the life signal, for the bright, shiny thing in people, the quality of just sheer effervescent life, as I'm listening, if I listen for that when they speak, then they naturally bring forward more of it. And so to me, it's an introvert and influence ability where you realize your listening isn't passive. And that if you actually listen from this place, that you can really create incredible conversations and solutions that other people just will spontaneously come to because you're listening for their genius, right? Instead of listening, like often we'll just listen, either, to criticize, or we'll listen to want to just hear what we're going to say next, or, just maybe more passively listening. But that active listening for genius is an amazing thing. I just highly recommend it. I first learned it from my Qigong teacher, and it's just about 10 years ago, and it's an incredible impact if you do that. So
what do you mean you learned about this from your Qigong teacher? Like, is there exercises that?
Oh yeah, yep. So it's a great partner exercise to do. So with someone that you trust, that you feel comfortable playing around with and exploring, have partner A and partner B. And so partner A, for 3 minutes, we'll just talk about whatever comes to mind, just total free association, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then partner B will listen specifically for their genius. We'll sit there and just, that's it, no matter what they say. They could be talking about, how they're making a quilt for their grandkid, mm-hmm. but listen for their enthusiasm, listen for their beauty, listen for their gifts, and you'll feel physiologically how you expand and you open, and they get brighter and shinier. And it's just this amazing quality. And then you reverse. So you talk about, when you complete the 3 minutes, then you basically just talk about your experience. Then you reverse so that partner B now speaks, partner A is listening. And then if you're really brave, then you reverse and you listen to criticize. Like you listen for what's wrong. And then see how it changes, like how your body shuts down, like how they start to, get more and more unsure of themselves. It's a startling contrast. And it's an amazing exercise. When I teach it to students in class, after a while, I always started to teach the listening for genius because they got so disheartened by the listening for what's wrong.
Right.
But if you want to really see the power of it could be worth doing both, because it really shows you, or what I learned from it, what I took away was how destructive it is to do that to yourself and others, and just what a small shift it is to listen for genius, but what a big impact it has.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. What about a challenge that you think you still have or that you're working on, as the introverted entrepreneur?
Oh, goodness. Oh, so I was in Hawaii for 3 years studying with a spiritual teacher about 5 years ago. And I knew it was time to come back to the mainland and really up my business, because I had been building it, but it was time to really focus on it. And so the challenge for me is because I think so differently, and I'm focused on things that are fairly outside of mainstream society. So, but I saw from spirit that I needed to be willing to be visible. I needed to show myself, like create a website, be willing to talk and be seen. And that to me is so intimidating on a lot of levels. But on the other hand, I do love public speaking, and I teach all the time. Like, I'm very comfortable with that. But at the same time, to actually show people my heart, like to show them what I feel is really important and what I care about. And so learning to do that and to not feel so exposed, but to just get that it's part of creating a dialogue that I want to be a part of. And so if I think about it as sharing what I love and what I think is very powerful for people, then I feel fine. But if I think about it as, me like trying to get people to like me.
Yeah. Like promoting yourself. Yeah. Don't like it. Teaching or sharing your passion on stage, that's fine, because that's what people signed up for, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
it's hard.
Better it's always there, but getting better at not letting it be so big.
Right.
Be brave.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, it's easy to say, but it takes a lot of courage to be different too,
Yeah, it does. And it's funny, it's one of those things, since I'm 45 now, and since I was very young, I knew that I saw things differently, but over time realizing that oftentimes what I think is obvious, just not obvious, like, but it's just right there. Like your hair is blonde, you've got brown eyes, that it's not that way often for other people. So I learned to share what I saw. And from that was born the realization of just creating this coaching and consulting business, that it was part of what I'm here to do. But it really has been a curve to be willing to be different than the other ducks.
Yeah. You're so right. And for me, this started just, probably 2 years ago, that I paid more attention to those things, that I do feel things that other people don't feel, or see things that other people don't see. So yeah, it's interesting when you're in that journey and you're like, all of a sudden you're like, really? Other people don't feel that? Other people don't see that this guy's completely uncomfortable? Like, it's so obvious.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. And what I feel like is, I call it going first. So it's like, if you're willing to go first, if you're willing to reveal yourself, or say what you see, or acknowledge the more subtle levels of reality that, depending on your culture or the way you've been conditioned, that you're supposed to think aren't there. How many people are right there with you, but they weren't able to speak up. And so just like with what you're saying, you're like, how can no one else see this guy is nervous? But then if you could respond and you could say something that could help set him at ease, right? It's an amazing thing to actually respond to it. And I've just seen so many people are taught to not feel or to not acknowledge their feelings or to recognize their intuitive wisdom is very intelligent. Embodied wisdom is very intelligent,
So true. Wow. We're going deep here, and now we have to switch gears and talk about the three golden nuggets. It feels like total, jump in the cold water. But, that's I think it's important too, because we're combining the inner work with the outer work, because as business owners, yes, we need to be aware of, these deeper things and spirituality and all of that, but we still need to get work done, and we still need to put ourselves out there. So let's talk about these three golden nuggets. So the first one is a personal habit, something that you do on a regular basis that contributes to your success.
Yep. So I make sure that I have quiet time in the morning. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I'd prefer it to be longer, but at least if it's in half an hour, where I get up, I drink lemon water because it's really good for cleansing the liver. So just drink some hot water and lemon. And I have a series of contemplations that I'll just sit and I'll look outside, I'll look at the trees, and I basically let myself be with my larger context and just be silent, be still. So then when it's time to start doing, I feel grounded and I feel centered. And it just makes the day so different if I skip it because I, for some reason, think, I don't have time. It's so obvious in the day, but I haven't like the kind of in that Franklin Covey way, first things first. I haven't started like from the right place, which is, balance and center. And then I can act from a much clearer place.
Right. You're like, something's missing today. Oh yeah, I didn't do my half hour. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. So now something that you're doing online. So a resource, a tool that you're using.
Yeah. And actually, Evernote, really, I love it. I love having the place where I can have a collage of any current ideas that are going on, because there tends to be a lot of things cooking at once for me, whether it's an article or like I'm going to be writing a book next year with my colleague. And so I have an area where different topics so that I can aggregate them there, or images that inspire me. And so I love having that as a tool, basically just for creativity. And then if any of them really do pop, like they're really ready to go, then I already have these resources gathered in one spot, and then it's much easier to go forward.
Wonderful. What about a book that you would recommend to fellow introverts, and why?
Well, it's interesting. I was really thinking about that. And this book, so this is the one that just kept coming to mind. So it's called Our Pristine Mind, A Practical Guide to Unconditional Happiness, by a guy named Orgene Cheweng. And so he came to the States. He's Tibetan Buddhist, and he came to the States and spent 10 years observing people in the United States before he wrote this book. And basically the essence of it is learning how to perceive your own clarity and your own wisdom and your own, he calls it pristine mind, you could say your own higher self. But why I would say it's a business book is that if you do this, then your ability to be clear in terms of your mission, executing, your ability to really see your market, to understand your products and services, to know who you're benefiting and why, it goes through the roof, because you're actually so much more clear. And it's like you're not confusing the clouds for the sky, right? And it's really well written, and it's simple, and it's just really designed to help people recognize who they are. And it's so straightforward. Like, to me, the more you see with clarity, especially as an introvert, your own inner process, then the better you are at being able to relate to others from you could say a higher level of function, and that just makes your business that much more solid,
And again, it's again combining the inner with the outer, right? Because if we have this clarity, which is clearly inner focused, then we're going to be much more focused in the outer work. Otherwise, we get overwhelmed and start all these different projects and don't accomplish anything. But with clarity, we're like, okay, this is what I need to do, and that's my focus.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. I will link to that in the show notes. All right. The last question has to do with marketing with integrity. I've been starting to use this question because I think for us introverts, this word integrity is very strong. I don't know, how does it feel to you when I say marketing with integrity? What comes up?
Oh, man. that so relates to what we were talking about earlier. So it's what I would call authenticity. And I get it's a different word, but why I would say to me it's authenticity is that if you even look up the definition of integrity, right? A structure has integrity if it can hold together and bear weight, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're coming from your authentic place or your real resonance, right? Where you're like, yes, that's me. That's what I want to do. Then marketing with integrity in many ways becomes a no-brainer, because if you try to do something that doesn't actually match you or match your message, it feels so wrong. And you get, it's just not going to work, right? Like that idea of and also, I mean, for someone like me, like turn and burn, like I would never want to treat people like numbers that I'm trying to sift and sort through. I get that's a valid approach. And at the same time, for me, marketing with integrity, it's just this feedback loop, because your integrity, you are in integrity. The people you're marketing to can feel, whether they're conscious of it or not, that you're in integrity. And it creates what I call an upward spiral, so that you're really drawing in energy and resources that are in alignment, versus the other idea, where you just market, but not with that as a North Star, right? Not with that as an orienting point. And, that just doesn't seem very good at all. Yeah. the net result, And
it goes back to knowing your true self. And so kind of digging deeper into who you really are. And if you're in the wrong place, maybe in a job position, you are being in the wrong place. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you're just not marketing your business the way you really want to do it. You're just following everybody else's advice. It's all the same, really. It's about knowing yourself.
Yeah. And knowing that kind of confidence, courage, and conviction that emerges from doing something like marketing with integrity, that does require some homework on your part. But if you do it, you really stand out from the crowd. You really do, because, and again, on a, it's subtle, but it's actually not very subtle at all, that we're all connected and we're all feeling each other all the time. We're animals. We're picking stuff up. So if somebody is conveying a message that is in integrity, so that there's congruity of the inner and outer, it'll naturally stand out. Like you will stand out, and you'll be more visible. You'll make connections in a different way. And again, it's the fastest way to do it, even if it may take you more time to execute it. In the end, it actually is the much faster way to build your business. So.
Right. Again, it takes courage to be different.
It does.
Wow, we're coming to an end here. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time. I always ask the last question, what are you grateful for today, Jennifer, or this week?
So in the States, next week is a holiday called Thanksgiving, and time to really reflect and rest, or in general, like you get together with your loved ones and feast and that kind of thing. And so for me, I feel very grateful to have that time, and it's just to be with the seasons and go inward and reflect, because here in North America, as we're heading to winter solstice, it's just that time to be more quiet. So I feel very grateful for this opportunity to just know it's time to come together and reflect and rest and celebrate basically the harvest. So
wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to me on my show.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Let's be in touch, okay?
Sounds great.
I hope you liked this episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. You can find out more about Jennifer on her website at jenniferlfreeman.com. So there's an L in between Jennifer and Freeman. Jen also has a free report for you that you can download at jenniferlfreeman.com/contact/free-report. And you get the Art of Science of Transformation, 5 keys to creating new neural pathways. So go ahead and download that. I'll make sure to add the link also to the show notes. And if you like my show, I'd love for you to help me spread the word with your fellow introverted friends. Maybe you're a quiet leader yourself and have a platform where you can share today's episode. Maybe you're in a mastermind who would appreciate today's conversation. Or maybe you need something to share with your own email subscribers. This too is part of the new gentle business revolution where we help each other. I'm hoping the content I'm sharing is helpful to you, and if you feel like you want to give back, then a share or a recommendation on iTunes would really be appreciated. Thanks so much for listening. This is Sarah Senecroce signing off from the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast. Remember, you need to use your unique introverted superpowers in order to make a difference.